Music. Hello, sunflowers. May all the light in the world, all the peace, and all the protection of Saint Sarah be with you and your family. Today I want to talk about a topic that always stirs up a lot of emotion, a topic that usually brings tears, doubts, and longing. And above all, a question that many mothers and fathers carry in their hearts for years. What happens to children when they leave this world? Where do they go? Do they remain children? Do they grow up in the spiritual realm? Do they miss their parents? Do they know they were loved? These are questions I've been receiving for many years, and before answering any of them, there's something very important we need to understand. We are not just this body. The body is a garment, a tool, an instrument that we use during a certain period of our journey. But what we truly are continues to exist, continues to learn, continues to evolve, continues to live. Because death, in the way many people imagine it, doesn't exist. What exists is the transition, the change from one plane to another. And I know that for many people this may seem difficult to understand, especially when we talk about children. Because when an elderly person passes on, as painful as it may be, there is a sense that they lived a life, built a family, made memories, gone through life stages. But when a child passes away, the feeling is different. The question arises almost immediately. Why? Why so soon? Why be so little? Why a life that seemed to be just beginning? And that's exactly where one of the greatest difficulties of our human perspective comes in. We see only this existence. Spirituality sees a much greater journey. A journey that doesn't begin at birth and doesn't end at death. Because according to spiritualist teachings, each spirit has a much older story than we can imagine. Even before we were born, we already existed. Even before this life, we were already learning, already making mistakes, already getting things right, already building bonds, already creating spiritual commitments. And maybe this is one of the hardest ideas for someone who is suffering to accept. That life doesn't begin in the cradle and also doesn't end in the grave. Think with me. If there were only a single life for each person, many situations would be extremely difficult to understand. Why do some people are born healthy while others face great limitations? Why do some live many years while others stay here for such a short time? Why do some face certain challenges from their very first days of life? These questions have accompanied humanity for centuries, and reincarnation is one of the spiritual explanations for this life. These differences, not as punishment, not as retribution, but as continuity, as learning, as evolution. And when we look at the issue of children from this perspective, we begin to notice something very important. Not every spiritual mission requires decades to be fulfilled. Not every spirit needs to remain incarnated for 80 or 90 years. There are long journeys and there are short journeys. There are experiences that last a lifetime, and there are experiences that last only a few months or a few years. That doesn't mean that existence was any less valuable. Quite the opposite. Sometimes a brief presence completely transforms a family's life. It transforms a mother's worldview. It transforms a father's heart. It transforms siblings. It transforms voices. It transforms entire generations. And that's why I would like you to keep a very important idea in mind as you follow me in this conversation. When we talk about children on a spiritual level, we're not talking about an end. We're talking about continuity. We're talking about a soul that continues its journey. A soul that continues to exist. A soul that continues to be loved. And to understand what happens after passing on, we first need to understand why some spirits remain on earth for such a short time, while others follow much longer journeys. Because the answer to this question completely changes the way many people see loss and life itself. There's a question that usually comes up right after we talk about reincarnation. If everything is part of a spiritual plan, Why do some children stay on earth for such a short time? That's a difficult question. Not because spirituality doesn't have answers, but because our hearts are not always ready to hear them, especially when there is pain involved. Because when a mother loses her child, she's not thinking about spiritual philosophy. She isn't considering the soul's evolution. She's thinking about the absence, the empty room, the memories, about the dreams that were left behind. And I understand that. But let's try to look at this situation from another angle. Imagine a school. Not all students are studying the same subject. Not everyone is in the same grade. Not everyone has the same difficulties. While some are learning something basic, others are learning much more advanced topics. Something similar happens with spirits. Each spirit has a different story, a different background. Different experiences accumulated over many lifetimes. That's why two children can be born on the same day in the same hospital and still have completely different spiritual journeys. One will remain on earth for decades. The other will stay for only a few years. And when we look at just this life, it seems unfair. But spirituality doesn't see only this life. It sees the entire journey of that spirit. And that's exactly where many people start to understand something important. Not every incarnation has the goal of living a long time. Some incarnations have extremely specific goals, very specific. Sometimes that spirit just needed to go through a certain experience. Sometimes it needed to learn its own lessons. Sometimes it needed to provide learning for other people. And I know that this can sound difficult for those who are suffering, but think with me. How many people have completely changed after the arrival of a child? How many families started to see life differently? How many parents have discovered strengths they never imagined they had? How many people found a spiritual path after facing a great loss? I'm not saying that pain exists to teach. I'm saying that even within pain, many transformations happen. And there's another detail that few people know. Before we reincarnate, we don't come here without preparation. According to various spiritualist teachings, there is planning, there is study, there is guidance, there is understanding of the experiences we will need to go through. That doesn't mean that every detail of life is written as an unchangeable script. Free will still exists. Choices still exist. But there are spiritual commitments that we make before we are born. There are encounters that need to happen. There are bonds that need to be rebuilt. There are lessons that need to be experienced. And some of these experiences involve families who will welcome a child for only a short time. Now there's a question that might be on many people's minds. If this was planned, did the child know she would stay here for only a short time? The answer isn't simple, because each spirit has a different level of awareness before reincarnating. But many teachings indicate that, to varying degrees, spirits do take part in their own reincarnation planning. They receive guidance, they receive clarifications, they understand the objectives of that journey, and this completely changes the way we see certain situations, because it stops being an interrupted story, and it becomes a completed mission. A mission that may seem short to us, but maybe it accomplished exactly what it needed to, and when that mission comes to an end, a very delicate process begins. A process of welcoming, of adaptation, of preparation for a new reality. A reality where that child is no longer limited by the physical body. A reality where she will begin to understand who she really is. And it's precisely at this moment that one of the most moving parts of this entire spiritual journey happens. The moment of transition. Because when we talk about children, there's a very sad image that usually comes to people's minds. The idea of suffering, the idea of fear, the idea of abandonment. But what I have learned over the years studying spirituality It points to something very different. When the true moment of passing comes, the child is not left alone. On the contrary, she receives enormous spiritual attention. Because we are talking about spirits that most of the time arrive in the spiritual realm still carrying memories from their childhood here on earth. And that's exactly why welcoming becomes so important. Many people imagine that the child simply closes their eyes here and immediately wakes up understanding everything that happened. But it's not always like that, just like it happens with adults. There is an adaptation period. There is a welcoming period. There is a period of understanding. And this happens because of the love of spirituality. It respects each individual's time. Now imagine a child who went through a long illness. Imagine a child who faced difficult treatments. Imagine a child who lived with physical limitations for a good part of their life. When she leaves her physical body, something very beautiful usually happens. The limitation is left behind, the pain is left behind, the physical suffering is left behind, and what we truly are continues on. Because the spirit is not sick, the spirit is not disabled, the spirit is not limited. The spirit temporarily uses a body which may have limitations, but its essence remains intact. And this is one of the most comforting things for many families, knowing that the child who suffered here no longer suffers. Knowing that the child who faced such great challenges is no longer trapped by the physical difficulties they faced on earth. Now, there is something that many people ask me. Gypsy Sulamita, does the child know they died? The answer varies a lot, because each spirit reacts differently. Some understand quickly, others need more time, especially when the passing happens suddenly. But there is a detail that I consider very important. Spirituality usually doesn't show the whole reality all at once, because that could cause fear or confusion. Everything happens gradually, with patience, with care, with affection. In the same way, you don't give complex subjects to a child all at once. The spiritual mentors also respect the time needed for each understanding, and here appears one of the most beautiful images within the spiritualist teachings. The figure of the welcoming spirits, spirits who work with justice. Receiving those who are arriving, spirits prepared to convey safety, to convey peace, to convey trust. Because many times what the child needs most at that moment, it's not explanations, it's feeling protected. It's feeling that she is safe. It's feeling that she wasn't abandoned, and little by little she starts to realize that she still exists. She keeps thinking. She keeps feeling. She keeps being herself, just without the limitations of the physical body. And as this adaptation happens, something very interesting starts to emerge. Curiosity, questions, the desire to understand where she is, the desire to comprehend that new reality. And that's exactly when a phase begins that surprises many people. Because a lot of people imagine that when they arrive in the spiritual plane, the child remains exactly the same forever. But the spiritualist teachings show that reality can be much broader than that. A reality where each spirit keeps learning, keeps evolving, keeps growing in consciousness, and where some children remain as children for a period, while others begin to awaken much older aspects of their own spiritual history. And it's exactly here that we come to doubt. That appears the most when we talk about children in the spiritual realm. If a child passes away, she remains a child forever. Or does she grow up? Or she becomes an adult? The answer is more interesting than many people imagine. Because when we talk about spirits, we're talking about individuals who have a much bigger story than just their last incarnation. What we see here on earth is just one stage of the journey, an important stage, but still just a stage. That's why the spirit doesn't always appear in the form it had when it left the physical body. Imagine a person who passed away at 5 years old. When we look at her from here on earth, our memory will always be of that child. The photograph that remained, the unforgettable voice, the moments that were recorded in the heart of the family. But on the other side of life, there is a much broader reality, because that spirit did not begin its existence at the age of 5. He has already had other experiences. He has already had other stories. He has already gone through other journeys. And depending on his level of spiritual evolution, he may awaken in the spiritual plane in different ways. Some spirits continue to present themselves initially as children, especially when they still need to adapt, when they still have a very strong connection to their last incarnation, when they are still going through learning and recovery processes. In these cases, they are usually sent to specially prepared environments, especially to receive them. Welcoming environments, learning environments, environments where they feel safe. And this reassures many families because there is a lot of support focused on these spirits. They are not abandoned. They are not lost. They are not alone. There is guidance. There is supervision. There is care. There is protection. Now there's another situation that also happens. Some spirits have a much more advanced evolution, and when they awaken, they gradually begin to regain awareness of who they really are. Not just from the last incarnation, but from their own spiritual journey. That's why some mediums, spiritualists, and scholars report perceiving certain spirits who passed away as children, later presenting themselves as young people or adults. That doesn't mean the child has disappeared, nor does it mean that she aged exactly as we age here on earth. It means that the spirit is presenting itself according to its broader spiritual consciousness, according to its true identity. And when we understand this, one thing makes a lot of sense. The spirit is not bound to a single appearance, because appearance belongs to the body. The essence belongs to the spirit, and it is precisely this essence that keeps evolving. Another thing that few people imagine is that there is study in the spiritual realm, a lot of study, because life goes on. Learning continues, growth continues. Many spirits take part in educational activities. They receive guidance. They learn about their past experiences. They understand better their own challenges, and they start to prepare themselves for what lies ahead. Some will remain for a long time in the spiritual realm. Others may reincarnate again in relatively short periods. It all depends on the evolutionary needs of each spirit. There isn't a single formula. There isn't a rule that's the same for everyone, because each individual has a unique story. And maybe that's one of the most beautiful things I've learned while studying this subject. Spirituality doesn't treat anyone like a number. It doesn't treat anyone as just one among millions. Each spirit is cared for according to their needs, according to their experiences, according to what they need to learn. And while all this is happening, there is a question that remains in the hearts of many mothers and many fathers. A question that almost always comes up when we talk about children who passed away too soon. Do they still think about us? Do they miss us? Do they receive our prayers? Because the answer to this question usually brings a lot of comfort to those who remain here. And maybe that's the most important question of all. The question that exists today in the heart of almost every mother, every father, every grandmother, every grandfather, or anyone who has lost a child they love deeply. Does she still remember me? Does she know how much I love her? Does she receive my prayers? Over the years, this has been one of the questions I've heard the most, and the answer that spiritualist teachings give us is extremely comforting. Love doesn't disappear when the physical body ceases to exist. True bonds are not created by matter. They are created by the spirit. That's why when there is sincere love, there is also a connection that continues beyond physical life. Now, That doesn't mean that child is constantly watching everything that happens here on earth. Many people imagine something like that, as if spirits spent their days following every detail of their families' lives. But it's not exactly like that. Life goes on for both sides. Here and there is learning. There is work, there is evolution, there is growth, but that doesn't stop love from continuing to exist. And that's exactly why so many people report experiences they could never forget. Extremely real dreams, feelings of peace, inexplicable. Memories that come up suddenly. Moments when the heart seems to feel a familiar presence. Not everything can be interpreted as spiritual contact. But not everything can be explained by chance alone. Because there are connections that go beyond what we can understand rationally. And there's something else very important. Prayers? Many people ask, Sigana, is it worth continuing to pray for my son? Yes, it is. Very much so. Because every prayer made with love produces light. Every prayer made with sincerity provides support. Every prayer made from the depths of the soul carries an extremely positive energy. That's why I always say, when you feel the longing, turn that longing into prayer. Turn that longing into love. Turn that longing into light. Because it's good for the one who has passed. But it's also good for those who remain. Now, there's a detail that few people understand. Excessive suffering can become an emotional prison. And I know that's not easy to hear. Especially for those who have lost a child. Because there is no greater pain for many parents than this. But think about this with me. If you love someone deeply, what do you wish for that person? That they move on in peace. That they are happy. That she keeps growing. That she keeps evolving. And that's exactly what happens with the spirits. They continue on their journey. They keep learning. They continue to be supported. They continue to exist. That's why spirituality invites us little by little to replace despair with longing and resentment with prayer. To exchange the feeling of an ending for the understanding of continuity, because the truth is that no one disappears. The physical presence ceases to exist. But the essence remains, the love remains, the story remains, the moments you've experienced remain, and maybe that's exactly why. So many mothers report feeling their children so close, even years after their passing, because what was built with love is never lost. And there's one last thing that I would like you to keep in your heart. No child is alone in the spiritual realm. None. All are welcomed, all are assisted, all receive support, all receive guidance. And when the right moment comes, they continue their journey, just like all of us. We will continue day by day. That's why if you lost a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, or any dearly loved child, don't think of them only in sorrow. Also remember the smiles, the playful moments, the happy moments, the beautiful memories, because those memories are a form of love. And love is still the strongest bridge between the two planes of life. I hope so, with all my heart, that this conversation has brought you a little comfort. And now I would like to know your opinion. Do you believe in reincarnation? Do you believe that bonds of love continue after passing? Tell me here in the comments. I would love to read each message. May Saint Sarah cover your path with protection. May God enlighten your journey. And may peace reach all those who today carry the longing for someone very special. Oh. Now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this approach? Comment here and share this video if this message helped you in any way. See you in the next video.